All right, I'm super excited today. Today is canning ground venison day. So I have 11 pounds of ground venison in these 2 pots approximately that I'm going to brown off. So canning meat. I had a lot of people ask me about canning meat. Do you have to cook it once you decide to use it? Doesn't it spoil? It can't be good. Why would you can meat when you could just put it in the freezer? So, roosters are crowing. So, to answer a few of those questions, why do I can meat? Because for one, it utilizes space in my pantry instead of in the freezer. If we have a power outage, all that meat is going to spoil, and I'm going to be in here on my gas stove trying to preserve as much meat as possible. So your freezer is not going to be any use to you if the power goes out or if the grid goes down or anything like that. But you can have canned meat on the pantry shelf that's going to last years. That'll be just as good as the day you canned it. So, does it spoil? No, not if you follow the appropriate directions. When you can meat and beans, you have to use a pressure canner. You can't just use a water bath canner. Water bath canners do not reach the appropriate temperatures to kill harmful bacteria that a pressure canner does. So when you hear about people getting sick from eating canned meat back in the day, that's because they didn't have pressure canners and they were just using the boiling canner method to can meat. It's very low acid food. You have to pressure can it. Let's see. No, the pressure canner fully cooks the meat. You do not have to cook the meat after you take it out of your jar when you go to use it. It's fully cooked, fully ready. All you got to do is heat it up and add it to your recipe. So, what will I use this canned ground venison for? I'm definitely going to use it for tacos, one of our favorites. I'm going to use it for chili, another one of our favorites. I will use it for loose meat sandwiches or like sloppy joes, definitely. Anything that you would use ground beef for. You know, you always get busy and have a potluck to go to this week, and you don't know when you're going to have time to make anything, and instead of just going and buying a couple bags of chips or something at the grocery store, it's nice to take something homemade. So you could make some chili cheese dip with your ground beef or ground venison or ground turkey or whatever meat you would choose to can. I'm going to be canning some chicken thighs and legs here in the future. I got a really good deal. It's a 10-pound bag of leg quarters for $5.99. So I got a couple of those. I'll be canning those up in the future. And I will also be canning up some wild turkey that is in the freezer because we have not eaten it yet, and before long turkey season will be approaching. So I'm pretty excited to get some of this on the pantry shelf. So I'll come back once I get this browned off. So you don't have to cook it full through. You just need to partially cook it before you add it to your jars, and then it will finish cooking in the pressure cooker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown this off, put it in my jars, then I'm going to cover the meat in my jars with water, hot water, and then I'm also going to add better than bouillon beef base to each jar. Linda from Linda's Pantry, love her channel. I trust everything she says. She says that adding some better than bouillon to ground meat cans helps keep the meat with its original texture as if it had never been canned. So I'm really excited to try that. All right, I'll bring you back as soon as we get this meat browned off and start filling our jars. All right, it's time to start filling jars. So I tried to zoom in here a little bit. All right, so I have hot jars that were waiting in the sink that had some hot water in it. I have hot lids and rings. I have hot water right here, and then my pressure canner has 3 quarts of water in it that is also hot. So everything needs to be hot if it's going to be hot. Everything needs to be cold if it's going to be cold, or like, for example, raw packed. So, all right, I'm using a plastic slotted spoon because if you use metal, you take a chance of scratching the jar, which could cause the jar to rupture in the canner during the canning process, or it could also cause your rings to potentially not seal if there's a scratch or a chip in the ring. All right, so I'm using my funnel to fill my pint jars up to about 1 inch of head space with my ground meat. And then I'm going to add a little bit of better than bouillon. Then I'm going to add my hot water to about 1 inch head space. All right, and then you want to debubble. So you want to go around the outside of your jar with the debubble tool and force out any of those air bubbles, and then also in the center. All right, now it's just about perfect. I have just a little bit of water that I could add to get it to that 1 inch head space. Then I use vinegar to wipe off the rings. Vinegar helps get any of the oil or grease off of the rings that could potentially cause a failed seal as well. And then grab a ring or a lid and then a ring, finger tight, and into the canner it goes. All right, here's the last one. This is the 11th one, so it was just about right. 11 pounds of meat and 11 pint canning jars, so approximately 1 pound per pint. Pack it down. A little bit of beef bouillon. Remember, don't bang the spoon on your jar. You don't want to chip the edge like that. Hot water to 1 inch head space. Then using your debubbling tool, go around the outside. You can see the air bubbles coming up. I'll probably have to add a little bit more water because the water has filled that space of the air that we've pressed out. Yeah, see? So I'm not quite to 1 inch. Perfect. rim off with vinegar. I need one more. One more lid and ring. Finger tight. I have all the jars in the pressure canner. I added my leftover vinegar to the water because that will reduce the deposits on the jars if you have hard water like I do. So you line up the arrows. Twist the lid on so it seals. And then for my particular canner, which you want to follow the directions for your canner, but for my particular canner, I will turn up the heat slowly and let the let the steam come out of the vent at a steady flow for 10 minutes before I put the pressure regulator on. Then once I put the pressure regulator on, I'll watch the pressure come up to 11 pounds of pressure, which is what I need for my canner for my elevation. And then as soon as I reach that 11 pounds of pressure, that's when I start my processing time, which is 75 minutes, 4 pints for pressure canning meat. Then at that point, we're almost done with the process, but one thing I would suggest is to make sure that you don't bring your canner up to temperature too quickly, because that tends to make your jars evacuate liquid and you're going to lose that headspace and you're going to lose product into the canner. So you just want to be gradual with it. So, yay! They're done. Very excited. They look good and smell good. So I'm going to gently take them out of the canner and set them on a towel. You want to be careful when you grab the jars to grab underneath that bottom ring, not the lid. You don't want to mess that up. It looks great. Let's see if any of them are still boiling. Looks good. So I have 9, 10, 11 pint jars of ground venison that is home canned. It contains venison, a little bit of better than bouillon beef base, and water. So get your canner out or go buy one.